people are trying to refer to when they say that is, they say, why don't you start as a councillor, right? Why don't you start as a local government chairman? The question is, or House of Rep. The question is, when you're looking for a country to change, do you go and start changing from where the change will have no impact, or you change it from where there is impact? And if experience were to be a major reason why presidents are elected, every country in the world will have an 80-year-old man leading them. So you won't have a 42-year-old guy in Canada, a 39-year-old in France, Obama, who was 46 years old or thereabout when he became U.S. president. There's no reason for anybody to worry about where to start from. It's for you to think big so that your country can become really big. Our biggest problem as young people is that we are missing a lot of opportunities. We have poverty of opportunity in the country. Opportunity to get a job, to get better education, to get good health, to even travel without being denigrated or degraded. It's the opportunities that this country could have provided us. And in asking you to take back, we're saying take it back in a full spectrum so that you don't continue to suffer like this. It's your choice.
It's the 2019 political season in Nigeria, and everybody is skeptical. Tension is high in so many parts of the country as to who Nigerians want to elect as the next president. My name is Damilare Okonla. You're watching Legit TV. Today we want to speak with one very strong presidential candidate, if you ask me. He's one of those people so many youths out there are yearning for. They are clamoring for this man and they want him to become their president, at least from some people we've spoken with recently. Talking about Omoyele Sowore, the presidential candidate of the All African Action Congress. And of course, he's here, he's going to speak with us today on some of the reasons he's gunning for this post as far as we're concerned in Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Show, as we popularly call him, on the streets.
Thank you so much for bringing me on your TV station today. I have a lot of respect for your street credibility, and I've always said that. So it's good to see you, and good to be on your TV platform today.
Okay, on behalf of those of us who are always on the streets, who are always fighting and saying, "Look, we want a better Nigeria." What exactly do you want to say? What exactly is it that is driving you? What exactly is it that is troubling your mind and made you say, look, I want to become Nigeria's president? What exactly is it?
I come from the streets too, and even when I got into journalism, I described my journalism as street media as opposed to mainstream media. So I came from the main street media as opposed to mainstream media. And I think the same of everybody who's out there on the street suffering, miserable at this time, that it is time for us to change the course of history. And it's time to redistribute wealth. It's time to ensure that we are all included in what belongs to us in this country, democratically participating, not only during elections, but during economic boom. We only hear about our government when there is economic doom. But when there is boom, we don't hear from them. They enjoy it. So it's time to move from, the main streets to mainstream politics. That's why I'm doing this. And I have 30 years of fighting on the street, fighting against military rule, fighting against environmental degradation, fighting against corruption, all of them through the streets, and methods that I mastered and adopted using the streets very well. So I'm one of you. Don't get carried away by my attire today. This one is borrowed robe. When I become president, we'll be back together the way I am. Yes.
Okay, so some people or people who meet or met are quite skeptical about your experience as far as politics is concerned. They are saying, you just mentioned 30 years now. Do you think 30 years experience on the streets or fighting corruption and all, do you think this number of years are enough for you to, or are enough criteria for you to go on for a presidential post?
In fact, most people are surprised when they find out that I've been around for 30 years. Most people did not know that I was around during Abiola's time. And what a better time to be around fighting for a principled position against military rule. And what was I fighting for at that time? Democracy. When I fought against Totan, what was I fighting for? Democracy. When I fought against Yaradua, what was I fighting for? Better democracy. When I fought against corruption, what was I fighting for? Economic inclusiveness, and an eradication of poverty by fighting, the cankerworm of corruption. So, if you can be a good fighter and you're always leading, you can definitely be a very, very good leader. And if you add that to other experiences I've had educationally, experiences of resilience, experiences I've had been exposed, experiences I've had seeing things work in other parts of the world. I've done another 19 years in the United States of America. I'm not saying that makes me better than other people. It just shows that I've seen the best of two worlds and probably the worst of two worlds. And as they say, experience is the best teacher. So the other people who you claim, or most people claim have experience, they don't have any experience. They only have the experience in stealing, in killings, in manipulation and deception. That is not the kind of experience that could uplift a nation. If it could, Nigeria would not be the way it is today, because we've had people that could be described as experienced men. And in fact, we've had now twice two former presidents before, and they messed up the country because the kind of experience they have is not the experience we need to progress.
Okay, one would have thought that you probably take it from the grassroots as against starting from the very top. Why are you starting from the very top and not from the grassroots?
I came from the grassroots. I've been uprooting the grasses of oppression for a long time. I've been there fighting with the people. What people are trying to refer to when they say that is, they say, why don't you start as a councillor, right? Why don't you start as a local government chairman? The question is, or House of Rep. The question is, when you're looking for a country to change, do you go and start changing from where the change will have no impact, or you change it from where there is impact? And if experience were to be a major reason why presidents are elected, every country in the world will have an 80-year-old man leading them. So you won't have a 42-year-old guy in Canada, a 39-year-old in France, Obama, who was 46 years old or thereabout when he became U.S. president. You won't have several presidents that are young, Croatia, everywhere in the world. They look for people with character, they look, for people with passion and zeal, and people who have courage to lead them. The leadership, of the presidential type is not the kind of thing you find in a CV. People choose their president based on their beliefs and convictions, and the convictions of the presidential material. And, it's about competence, it's about character, it's about will, it's about passion, it's about courage. And that is why in South Africa, Mandela could become president of South Africa right from prison. Because there's something about his character they needed to unite the country against apartheid at the time. That's why and Obama could become a president, even when they mostly described him as a community organizer. So, and there's no reason for anybody to worry about where to start from. It's for you to think big so that your country can become really big. And if there are people who are contented with just being councillors, our party has got slots for them. If you are contented with being a House of Rep member, you can join our party and limit your dreams to that place. You cannot say because your dreams are limited, you want to stop others. But most importantly, it's also important to look at how Nigeria's independence was obtained. It was obtained by people in their 20s. Nahoro, Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe, who was probably the oldest among them. They were in their 20s when they fought for Nigeria's independence. They didn't start from local governments, So, because we have been battered over these years, people become defensive because they have become limited by how they are constantly defined by their oppressors.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, talking about your slogan, it says AAC, take it back.
Yes.
And it looks like we are going to take it back whether they like it or not. But I do think the youths are really ready to take it back, seeing the spate of...
It's not about whether they're ready or not. It has become a necessity that every young person sign up to a commitment to retrieve their country back and regain their dignity and restore the opportunities that have been missed over these years, because our biggest problem as young people is that we are missing a lot of opportunities. We have poverty of opportunity in the country, opportunity to get a job, to get better education, to get good health, to even travel without being denigrated or degraded. It's the opportunities that this country could have provided us. And in asking you to take back, we're saying take it back in a full spectrum, so that you don't continue to suffer like this. It's your choice. You can decide to stay where you are, comfortable. You want to suffer more, you can. But we don't think they have a right to continue to make you live in squalor. And that is why it's our job and duty to reach out to people so that they can understand. It's a lot of work, because when people are oppressed for so long, there's something they call Stockholm syndrome, where you fall in love with your oppressor, and you start to defend them, even though the oppression has not abated.
You think that's what is happening to so many of our youth?
It's possible. It's possible. It's a conditioning system. When they went after education, they knew that they needed an ignorant society that can accept every rubbish. That's why they killed education. When they killed health, the health sector, they knew that people would find health somewhere. And the religious organizations are providing hope instead of health. When they killed the economy, they knew that you become beggars, and when you are a beggar, you have no choice. When they killed agriculture, they knew that you become hungry. When you are hungry, you have no direction. So it's a lot of it's a coalition of methods to strip us of our dignity, and that's what they have succeeded in doing. And when people are stripped to the barest as we have now, there's pretty much nothing left. And that's why some of the behaviors they are seeing in terms of how accepting and docile and complacent our people are is as a result of the mental conditioning that has taken place over these years.
Okay, talking about coalition, we recently heard about some presidential candidates saying, okay, I'm dropping down, or I'm stepping aside, just so that maybe I'll hand over to others or join hands with others to try to wrestle power from the powers that have been for some time. Are you looking at coalition as well? Because a lot of people think you should come up with, team up with some other young candidates, just so that the struggle will be fiercer than it is present.
Well, the question is, how would the struggle get fiercer if the people you are coalescing with are not fierce fighters? Some of them are not they don't have our kind of temperament. And we welcome a coalition, but a coalition has already happened in our party. It's a coalition of the oppressed. It's a coalition of the abandoned, a coalition of the impoverished, a coalition of the sick, weak people in our society. They've already come together under our party. When we started as a movement, we were looking for a party that could accommodate a broad range of ideas we have. We couldn't find it, and we went up and applied to get our own party. So we control what we want in terms of the messaging that's going out there, our agenda, our manifesto. Other members of other young people who are running, particularly young people, they join parties. And what the tragedy you saw happen to Obi last week was as a result of that. She had a different agenda from members of his party, including her vice presidential candidate, who went and supported Buhari because she didn't found her own party. If she had known, maybe she should have went and registered BBOG, bring back our girls as a political. I'm just saying, I'm just speaking generically. But here we are now, she's left high and dry. We don't have that kind of problem because we design our political party and movement from the bottom, from the onset.
Okay, so you feel like anybody who shares your ideologies,
they can join us. But there's no reason to be chasing after other people in search of coalition. The truth is that we are different on a number of issues, and we are characteristically different with some of these people. For example, we have a minimum wage requirement. Some of these young candidates don't believe that people deserve a living wage. We can't compromise on that. We can't compromise on a number of principles, including history and pedigree, or the ability of whomever we're working with not to jump ship if things become a little bit too tough. So that is why we want to remain uniquely the way we are and invite others to join us.
Okay, I've heard on a couple of occasions where you've spoken against the government of the day and past governments. Exactly what issues do you have with these people? And you spoke about some of the things that you want to do for Nigerians. People say some of these things are unrealistic.
Which one did they say are unrealistic?
Especially the minimum wage.
It's realistic. The only thing is that people don't understand that to pay workers a living wage is more important than paying legislators, a maximum wage. Legislators are taking home a huge amount of money. Imagine that the senator is receiving 14 million naira per month, and they are the ones opposed to paying workers a minimum wage of 100,000. 100,000, they have settled for 30,000 naira. If you work at 30,000 naira per month, you have to work for 38 years before you can get to 14 million naira, which is the monthly salary of a senator, or monthly take-home pay of a senator. So there is no question about the fact that we can afford it. We just need to reorder our priorities and redistribute our wealth to go to everybody deserving of it. Nobody, and I've said it, challenged many people to tell me if there's anybody who can live on 18,000 naira or 30,000 naira a month. Nobody has been able to defend that criminal wage. As a matter of fact, today the Speaker of the House of Representatives, under whose purview a discussion and accent is needed to increase to 30,000, is saying that it's grossly inadequate. Reason is simple. If you are working for the federal government, at the minimum you eat 1,000 naira food per day, and hunger don't know weekends, they don't know holidays. So for 30 days, you have to already spend 31,000 naira or 30,000 naira, as the case may be. If you have to do transportation to and from work, let's assume you spend 5,000 naira at the minimum per month. If you have to send your children to school, spend like 20,000, so already just between food, transportation, and work, you have not added rent, you haven't added health, you have not added, miscellaneous expenses. You have already reached 100,000. But if you do 100,000 minimum wage for workers, we can be talking about a non-inclusive mortgage system where workers can borrow 2 million naira, go and build their own homes wherever they want, and when they come back, they can pay 20,000 naira as a repayment of the mortgage loan on a monthly basis. They still have 80,000 naira. So, and when you pay workers living wage, you also prevent corruption, the kind of barefaced corruption that's happening because wages are just too small. But just so you understand that we're already getting there, the police salary has now reached 98,000 naira. That's the minimum wage of it. So somebody is probably listening to us and stealing our ideas. Yes. So the reality is that we're just delaying this unnecessarily. We shouldn't be talking about minimum wage at this time of 100,000. We should have surpassed that because South Africa is at $126,000, and our economy is bigger than that of South Africa because we are now at $500 billion annual GDP. So what is the percentage of that goes to wage? Less than maybe 1.5%.
Some people also have this perception of you as being proud, that when you attend maybe public functions or where you are supposed to speak about maybe politicians, that you come at them as someone who's proud. What do you think about it?
No, I'm not proud. I'm a very humble person. I just happen not to believe in our own traditional way of subservience, where you see your oppressor and you don't like him and you pretend as if you like him, or out of fear you start to pay respect to people who don't deserve it. That is what people misinterpret as what they call it, arrogance. It's not, it's just confidence. And every young person needs to develop that attitude of being able to confidently address their oppressors or call them to order, call them out, because if everybody does that, they will conduct themselves better. Other than that, I'm in love with everybody and I respect both old and young people, but I don't have respect for elders who are destroying the country or who have destroyed the country. And I don't have any apologies for that.
Okay, between both of us here, between you and I, what are your chances of winning 2019 presidential election?
2 million votes from young people who have registered to vote. I hope you have your PVC. When you look at the pie chart from INEC, young people are almost 50% of the voters. If you cannot be young and reasonably go and vote for these old cargoes who have destroyed your country. So your only option is to vote for a younger, more vibrant, more courageous youth. It means that governance will shift from old people to young people. So even if you don't have a job today or you don't have a say in the country, with a Sowore presidency, you will be able to do so, because we will have no option than to go choose from the pool of young people who are very qualified, who have energy and stamina to make the country a better place, than to be going after old people who should have retired. So it's a broad opportunity for, engagement, inclusiveness and empowerment for young people. There's nothing else that can give you more power than to vote for someone who understands you better, who is likely to provide you a job, an opportunity, a chance at life than, or would you rather go for someone who don't care about you, doesn't even know who you are, who don't relate with your struggles? That's why it is different. And there are 22 million of them. And if you add our mothers to those, parents who are suffering, the chances are very, very bright.
So is it safe to say that you have 22 million assured voters already?
That's the way I want to look at it. That's the way I want to look at it. I do not imagine that anybody in their right senses will vote for PDP or APC. It's the reason I said it on NTA when I was doing the candidates. The last question, I remember, I said, if you lose, would you consider? I said, if this election is free and fair, we possibly can lose it. So the question of concession won't even come in.
You've traveled to so many parts of the world trying to talk to Nigerians there about the fact that you want to become the next president of the country. And some people are worried that you're speaking with Nigerians in diaspora more than the guys here. Like, are they the ones who vote? Or what exactly is it with Nigerians in diaspora?
This is the first presidential run that recognized that Nigerians abroad are also part of the stakeholders in the Nigerian project, and that's why I did a lot of trips abroad. But we are unquestionably the only candidate or party that has traveled the most in this election cycle, having done over 34 states now. That is including in the Federal Capital Territory. Been to churches, schools, villages, been to towns, been to riverine areas, been on top of mountains. There's nothing to question about the coverage that we've had. Talking to Christians, Muslims, animists, we talk to everybody. We've been everywhere. We've been to places that you can't even imagine we possibly can go to. We just came back from Bauchi, Gombe. And you know how hard it is to travel on Nigerian roads. There are trips that lasted 7 to 8 hours, one shot. And we're here. It's plenty of energy. But people abroad are also part of the engine room of our economy. Over $50 billion sent home through money remittance. That is bigger than the earnings in oil every year. So we can't ignore them. They have relatives there. They have a stake in the Nigerian project. And we respect that. And everybody tries to do it, but they can't do it as good as we do it because they don't have the network and the acceptance.
Okay, about sponsorship now. Some of the opinion that you have some godfather somewhere.
I don't have any godfathers. We're raising money publicly and transparently. We using even innovative ways of raising money. GoFundMe. We've raised almost $140,000 on GoFundMe. We have a local account that's raised over 59 million naira. And whereas this is not enough, but it's adequate to do what we want to do.
What if you lose this election?
We can't lose because nobody should reasonably or can reasonably vote for in this failed political establishment and you can see that they are falling apart. They can't campaign, and they don't go out to do interviews like this because they have nothing to talk about. There is no substance to what they want to do. There's no substance to what they did before, and they have no history that can back up anything that they claim they want to do now. So it's just appealing to young people to take the bull by the horn. Make this time a memorable time in our life, and let it be a revolutionary endeavor. Do something that's never been done before.